I am Kate, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, and I own KCL Wellness. My education and my certification are all backed by the Board of Medical Examiners, and my coaching is all based in science. I love to research, and I love to share that research with women to help them understand how to better heal their bodies. I am certified in gut health, mental fitness, and hormone support, and the three of those things work together in my coaching to help people understand what their body is asking for, to make shifts with a positive mindset, because without a positive mindset, shifts are not sustainable. Long-term change is not sustainable. And then menopause support, because our gut really helps to synthesize and those hormones work correctly. Having a positive mindset as we go into menopause can really help us to navigate the challenges of our symptoms and hopefully come out on the other side of it feeling better going.
So, do you say that you have a niche, or there's something that you most commonly encounter in your work?
Yes, actually, I encounter quite often that people have gut issues that they're not really aware of. So many of us are walking around with bloating and discomfort in our gut. We are, some of us, intolerant to foods that we're not aware of. And we know that when we eat certain foods, we don't feel great. So we don't really pay much attention to it. We let it go, and then we'll eat those foods again. The unfortunate thing with that is if we are eating foods that we're intolerant to and we don't know it, we can really get serious inflammation. And if that inflammation is not addressed, it can turn to chronic disease. So that's where chronic disease really begins in my research. And I truly believe that all health begins with the gut. If your gut is healthy, you're healthy, because about 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. And the balance of our gut microbiota, or our bacteria in our gut, is really crucial for health. So I see that a lot with women, especially, that they're feeling bloated, they're not feeling well, they're sluggish, they're not sleeping well. So it all can be traced back to, well, what are you eating, of course, but also what are your stress levels, how do you stress manage? That is, of course, a big one. Exercise, self-care, definitely the rounding out of your nutrition. Are you eating enough of colorful fruits and vegetables that your body needs in order to have the proper nutrients? And then, of course, quality sleep is a big one for women going through menopause. And, our bodies start going through menopause at different ages, but it's generally in our 30s. And the better we treat our body before menopause, the better she's going to treat you after. So we really need to keep that in mind. And that's what I try to help women be most aware of.
What are your go-to tips or suggestions when it comes to gut health, especially when it comes to preventative care?
Absolutely. So my number one thing that I ask my clients is, do you know for sure if you're intolerant to any foods? And there's blood work that can be done that can indicate if there is an intolerance. And the reason why this is important is because, like what I said to you earlier, if we are eating foods that we're intolerant to and we don't know it, it really can lead to a whole host of other issues. If I may share, for me, I had a gut disease for probably about 12 years that went undiagnosed. And I had every ologist you can imagine. So it turns out 12 years later, when I went and finally got diagnosed by a holistic practitioner, I had a gut disease called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And that was causing my bloating and all of my terrible symptoms that I was having. But then I also found out I was intolerant to gluten and dairy. Once I stopped the gluten and dairy and I found out that I had SIBO, I was able to help my body heal. Had I not known that, then I don't know where I would be today. But that's exactly why I am here today, to help people not have to go through what I went through. I had fertility issues, I had candida, I had surgery, I had all kinds of things. And had I known then what I know now, I think my life would have been a lot easier. So I try to be here for women to help them be their own advocates so that they can really understand what's going on with their body. In terms of just being the expert, expect to walk into a doctor and have them exactly what's going on with us. Sometimes they don't know our name. They're overwhelmed with all the that they have, but it's definitely something for women to be the expert on their own bodies so they can be the advocate for their own health.
And not only that, I think sometimes when you do your own research, you gain vocabulary to explain that, because then doctors will only rely on what you can tell them, and they can scope based on what you're telling them. But if, sometimes, like, if we don't know anything about it, it's like, hey, I just know that I feel bad. I couldn't tell you what it is.
And that's exactly right. And, there are different things that we go through. We're all different. You would walk into your girlfriend's closet and expect her pants to fit you the same way they fit her. It's the same thing with our health. Everyone is different. We go through periods of trial and correction to try to figure out what it is that our body is asking for. We need to pay attention to that in order to be able to move forward and go to our doctors armed the right terminology, like you said, the right questions. We really need to be involved in our own health in order to have longevity and sustainable lifestyle change.
Was this diagnosis and the period that you described, was this during, after, before you became certified and got issues and things like that? Or was that just kind of what kickstarted your career?
Yeah, so very interesting. It's exactly what kickstarted my career, because I had gone through this horrible period of time where I really thought there was something wrong with me. I had symptoms that mimicked MS. So I had this horrible stabbing pain throughout my entire body on my skin. One side of my face was drooping. I just felt completely off balance. My head was wrong. So I had spinal taps, MRIs, brain scans, you name it, I had it, and I was perfectly fine. So, after being diagnosed and then ultimately healing myself, and I'm sure we can go into that a little bit later, but I said, I have to do something for other people. This is not right that I went through probably from the time I started with my symptoms, and that was just symptoms that I was recognizing. What I know now is that my fertility issues and I had candida, endometriosis, all of those things that started way before my skin symptoms started, all of that was related to my gut as well. And I had no idea. So after doing my research and really understanding what it was that my body went through, and how, had I known just little things here and there, had I known that I was intolerant to gluten and dairy, maybe I would not have had fertility issues. Maybe my endometriosis would not have been an issue. But, even candida, because candida, of course, is caused by too much sugar, and perhaps I was eating too much sugar at the time. Anyway, so all of those, had I known then, is the reason why I am where I am today in my profession, because I want women to know now, not later, what's going on with them.
What are the basics that we should all know, and what would you say are the first sign of danger?
So definitely, as far as gut health goes, I would say if you're bloated, if you're having problems in the bathroom, if you're not going to the bathroom every day, we really should probably be going to the bathroom every day. Now, that's a generalized statement that I just made, but for most people, we should be going to the bathroom every day. So those are things to look for. What's the consistency of your stool? Is it long like a log? Is it small pellets? Is it floating? Is it sinking? All of those things can really tell you what's going on with your gut. But if you're not sluggish, if you're feeling off, if you have brain fog, even because our gut and our brain are directly related through the vagus nerve, they communicate with each other through the vagus nerve all day long. So if even brain fog can really indicate that you've got something going on with your gut. So, and then of course, knowing what foods bother you or don't bother you. And Gluten and dairy are big triggers, but there are other ones too. There's nightshades that can bother people, of course, nuts and seeds, shellfish, and sometimes the reaction isn't always obvious to people. Knowing what it is that you may or may not be intolerant to is crucial. And then the other thing I'll say is knowing what your gut balance is. So there are tests that we can take, stool samples and other tests that can indicate what type of bacteria your gut is missing. So I know there's so many probiotics out there on the shelves, and I get the question all the time, well, which one is best? Well, it's really hard to say which one is best for you if you've never understood what balance is going on in your gut, because you may be missing bacteria in your gut that the probiotic on the shelf does not have. So, for example, I know someone who had a vaginal infection, and the reason why she had that vaginal infection was because she was missing a certain bacteria in her vagina, microbiome vagina. So she needed to take a specific type of probiotic in order to replenish that bacteria in her vagina. So that's why I say it's really crucial and important to know. Now, certainly there are probiotics out there that are great if you don't know what your balance is in your gut. But I would say for optimal health, we really should understand what that is.
What would you say about, I know someone closely who they always knew certain foods where like their body would react to it, but they didn't actually decrease their intake until the paper said like officially, yes, you are allergic to this, even though their body has been telling them for like years.
Yeah. So yeah, I see that a lot too. And sometimes we just have to have exact something in front of us, that proves that we are intolerant. And, even though our body is screaming at us, telling us we don't want to believe, we don't maybe want to deprive ourselves of that food that we love so much. And can't be, that's not it. I'm sure that's not what it is. And until we have that proof on paper and we're seeing it with our own eyes, even then some people have a hard time walking away from it. But we have to really put things into perspective and understand what falls in alignment with your values for your health. What's more important? Is it more important that you have this food that we love so much and, we love to eat it because it's delicious and it sends endorphins to our brain and we get happy when we eat it? Or is it more important to have your health and longevity and we can stop eating that food and maybe replace it with something that's not so bad for us, that doesn't have us having that same reaction, but is equally as good and maybe even better for us.
So I will segue into, since you already mentioned the probiotics and the vaginal microbiome, when does sex come up in your office?
I'm sorry, when does what come up in my office?
Sex.
Sex, a lot. So libido is one of the things that we work on for women when they're going through menopause and post-menopause. Our hormones are directly related, of course, to our desire to have sex. And there are certain techniques that women can do to help put themselves in the present moment, and help that libido to expand a little bit. It's not fun to have sex if you have a dry vagina. And also our cognitive function, if our mind is elsewhere, then being present in the moment when we're trying to enjoy our partner be really very challenging. So there are techniques that can definitely help in this situation, but it's definitely something that women peri and post menopause are dealing with, and it can be a struggle. However, like I said, certainly can be sex after menopause can certainly be a wonderful experience all over again. Yeah.
What are your usual recommendations when it comes up?
So, one thing that comes to my mind immediately is hormone replacement therapy. And I get asked that a lot. And I just want to say right off the bat, I will definitely recommend a woman to a healthcare practitioner to discuss that, because everyone is very different and it may be right for some people and it may not be right for some people. So I leave that immediately to the healthcare practitioners. I can certainly discuss it with women and try to weigh what might work for them, but I leave that to them to go to their practitioner. But one thing I love to recommend to women is to start earlier in the day and don't allow your mind to play these taboo tricks on you where you can't talk sex. You have to keep it to yourself. It's dirty. It's not good to have a conversation about it. It's wonderful to have a conversation about it. Start early in the day. If you know that you and your partner are going to be going out to dinner, if you know that you have children, but your children are going to be either sleeping or away, as you're getting dressed, think about how beautiful you look. Put great clothes on. If you are experiencing a dry vagina, sometimes just a little bit of lubricant, and there's all natural ones out there, even a little bit of coconut oil can be fabulous. Put a little bit of that on earlier in the day to just start that feeling of arousal. As you go through the day and you're feeling that, you can definitely enjoy that moment, that feeling for yourself when you are feeling that nice, slippery, soft movement. And it starts to put you in the mood. And then when you know that you are feeling, your partner will definitely get that from you, and then it can start the cycle. And then once you're there, one thing that I would definitely say is to clear your mind and be present in the moment of what's going on. If you find yourself truly in bed with your partner and you can't stop thinking about what's for dinner the next night, or dirty your bathroom is, or the fact that you have to do laundry, there are techniques that we can use to help get you right back into that moment. And if you're truly cherishing the moment and in the moment and experiencing that closeness and that joy with your partner, inevitably you will find that moment where you can enjoy it the way that you would like to enjoy it.
I love that idea of putting loop just to put loop on, just to
Yeah.
like go on about your day.
Yeah. Put it on, go about your day, and enjoy for yourself the way that it's feeling.
Enjoy it for yourself. That I feel like that is sometimes like the first thing to be able, because like sex with a partner requires that you are both like connected, but also you need to be selfish too. Like then there need to be moments where you go far and then back.
Yes, and I'll even say further. So that word selfish, unfortunately, has a negative connotation for women, right? I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you. However, it's a form of self-care when you are enjoying that moment, because sex is definitely something that we all need in our lives. It's as important for us as eating, as shelter. Our bodies need it. It is definitely something that is crucial to our health. So, and we always think about sex with a partner. We always think about sex with someone else. But as a form of self-care, we have to look at it. It's not selfish. It's what we need in order to make ourselves thrive. Sex is definitely part of that. So, however you sex, think of it as self-care rather than something that is selfish or taboo or whatever the case may be. Whatever it is for you that works for you is how you should do it.
I was listening to an interview with Lori Broder yesterday, and they started talking about menopause and how the partner's reaction or like response to the perimenopausal changes can have such a huge impact. So I'm guessing that it's something that women may be telling you in the office. What are the things you hear often, and what do you think are ways for partners to support their person?
That is a fabulous question. And yes, we get that a lot, because oftentimes what happens is we're going through this thing called menopause. We're confused. We don't know what's going on. We may have mood swings. We're not in the mood for sex. And who do we take it out on the most? The person that's closest to us. So usually our partner. And unfortunately, that happens in the bedroom too. And they're left to be confused. So I think it needs to come down to communication between yourself and your partner. At this stage in our lives, we've been there, we've done that. You know what? We should be strong enough within our wisdom to stand up and say, this is what I want for myself. I hope you can help me through this, and explain to them what's going on. Let them know what you're feeling, because maybe they want to be a part of it with you. Let's not automatically assume that our partner's not going to understand, let's give them the opportunity to help us through it. So maybe if we work together, we can come up with solutions that work for both people. Because just the same way women need to have sex in order to thrive, men do too. And it is just part of who we are. So think about it from their perspective. That's a lot of the way that I like women to try to understand, is to think of it through their partner's perspective. They know that they need sex. They know that they don't feel well when they don't have sex. It's their bodies need that release. So if we just shut them off completely, they're going to be left feeling badly about that. So, and then of course it leads to other issues within the relationship. So instead of cutting them out completely, thinking that they're not going to understand, let's approach this with more of a positive mindset and include them in what's going on. Include them in the conversation of, okay, well, this is what I'm feeling, so I'm going to try this today. Hopefully you can work with me and understand. Or even more so, I'm realizing, as the woman, I'm realizing that my body is going through these changes. I'm wondering if you perform this on me, or if we try this together, or maybe we can try something else, maybe it'll spark something. So having that communication and setting their expectations so that they can understand what you're going through, and that you're not just cutting them out and shutting them off, can really have huge impacts on a relationship.
To be fair, adding a note to that, on the release, the woman who is going through all these changes and like sometimes even even missing wanting to masturbate, even missing to just do it with yourself. She needs the release too. She's
Yes.
probably as annoyed by it and like the changes. And I think the same for chronic illness or any like big body change. You feel like your body's betraying you a little bit, and it takes you like a little bit of time to learn the new tricks or like how to manage the machinery. And it's your body doesn't go back. Like that is one of the lovely comparisons I heard that to me clicked so well was like when you have a teenager who goes through puberty, you don't ask them, when are you getting your body back?
Right.
But when people have babies, when people are like getting older, we like keep saying that. We have these ideas ourselves. Like this is something that we often impose on ourselves. Like, oh, I need to get back to something. No, you have a new body.
And yes, that's exactly right. And it's interesting that you brought up puberty, because the times in a woman's life when her brain changes is puberty and then menopause. So going through menopause is the same as going through puberty. And you're exactly right. We're not getting that same person back again, that same body. The vessel by which we live is changing, and it's up to us to understand what's going on with it. I can't tell you how many women have no idea about menopause, have no idea about what to expect, or, what it even means to have a hot flash. So need to be prepared for that. I'm not quite sure why we're not talking more about it as a society, because it's coming. Whether we're ready for it or not, it's on its way. And the better prepared you are for it, the better you're going to be on the other side. And I'm not saying that you'll never experience a hot flash or you'll never go through any menopausal symptoms, but knowledge is power. And the more you know about it, the better you'll be able to handle it. And like I keep saying, the better you treat your body going into it, the better she's going to treat you after, because it's all about how we nourish ourselves. And it's not just nourishment on the plate, it's nourishment off the plate as well.
So how would you say, what are some of the symptoms that you would say, like starting perimenopause, and what is on the other side of menopause?
So leading up to menopause, we can experience the first thing is our periods change. So you could go from, being regular 28 days, exactly when you're getting your period, to things starting to be a little bit off. Maybe you're late, maybe you're early, maybe it's lasting a little bit longer. Maybe you're experiencing more cramping, more breast tenderness than you normally have. Brain fog is a big one that I hear from people. And of course, the libido side of it is a symptom as well as vaginal dryness. So those are just some symptoms. A lot of women also experience joint pain, and that's sometimes not known, but that can be a huge part of premenopause, perimenopause, and then of course weight gain. So all of a sudden you'll notice, oh my gosh, I have this weight on me. Where is this coming from? I've never had this before. Well, your body, like you said, and it's going into a transition where either you're going to transition with it or you're going to fight against it. And my recommendation is transition with it, because fighting against it is not going to work. It's going to win every time. So let's learn how to transition with it. So basically, those are the leading up to menopause. And then menopause is one day. Menopause is the day in which you do not have your period for 1 year. Perimenopause, you are going through all of those symptoms, but if you still have your period, then you're not at menopause. We start counting menopause back from the last day that you had your period. So let's say February 2024, it's today, February 11th. So let's say February 11th, 2024 was the last time you had your period. February 11th of 2025 is your menopause. And then the next day, you're in postmenopause. So that's very interesting. A lot of people don't realize that either. Yeah. So, what happens post-menopause? So we can still be experiencing a lot of the symptoms. We no longer have our hormones. And one recommendation I would highly, highly make to people, women in both peri and post, is to have your hormones tested. Understand what your levels are. So this way you can really make the determination of what's best for your health moving forward. So how long are we going to experience the symptoms going forward after you hit that menopausal date? It depends. There's no one size fits all here. So everyone is very different. However, your body will get used to menopause. So just the same way after puberty, we kind of our body went into balance. After menopause, our bodies will go back to balance. It may be a new balance. It may be a different look. It may be a different feel, but it will go back into balance, and our symptoms will start to level off. However, I will say that postmenopause is equally important time for you to continue to take care of your body as it is before. If we let ourselves go post-menopause, then we are certainly going to start to feel that brain fog, that sluggishness. We're not going to feel really good about ourselves. We're going to start to be negative. We're going to look in the mirror and not be happy with who we see. So that really can bring us into a downward spiral. We really want to love the body that we're in. And that's what I help women to do, is to truly love the body that they're in. Find joy, find spirituality, find what works for you, find your purpose in life, and focus on those things that really bring you joy. Work on the goals to achieve that thing that brings you joy, and live in the wisdom that this transition brings to us.
I started smiling when you talk about postmenopause. It was my brain when I expected unexpected, like anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. But the more we know ourselves, the more we're capable of handling whatever it is that comes our way.
Sorry, right. One of our giant dogs came in.
No, that's okay.
So, but Vanessa Dyer from Perry Collective, she mentioned that one of the early symptoms that most people don't know about is like having issues sleeping, rather than, because we all think hot flashes. So what happens during the perimenopausal changes that you start having issues with sleep?
So if we do experience hot flashes during the night, that is our estrogen levels going up and down. So that really can wreak havoc with our symptom of hot flashes. But so during the night, a lot of times what happens is we're getting to go to the bathroom. We have to go to the bathroom more. We can't hold it as often as we could have when we were younger. So that wakes you up. And then when you're up, you can't go back to sleep. You have a million things racing through your head as well. But also, one thing that I like to tell women is that our organs hold on to emotions. So depending on what time you find yourself waking up during the night, can really be traced back to, okay, well, is something going on? Are you stressed about something? Are you grieving? Are you angry? Are you holding on to anger? So if we don't let go of those emotions, if we don't have a way to deal with that, then it really can wake us up during the night, because our bodies go through a process of regenerative healing overnight. And if we're not getting the sleep that we need, then our body is not regenerating the way that it's supposed to. So dealing with those feelings of anger or fear or grief, whatever it may be, is really crucial to allowing your body to get the night's sleep that it needs and regenerate itself. Stress management is a huge way to be able to sleep well, because we often maybe sleep, but then we wake up for whatever reason to go to the bathroom or whatever, and then we can't go back to sleep because all of these things going through our brain. So setting a time to stress about certain things prior to bed can really help give yourself a really good night's sleep. And again, there are tips and techniques and tricks that we can do to help our body get the sleep that it needs. But that is definitely a symptom of menopause. So yeah.
How do you help women find their balance?
So we look at the body as a whole and understand through coaching and tracking and talking and figuring out what works for your body. We encourage exercise. There is a recommendation for women who are going perimenopause into menopause to do some weight training, because it's so important to support our bones. There's too many of us who end up with osteoporosis, and we need to support our bones. So that is a huge way. Of course, your nutrition. I like to talk to women about eating the rainbow of vegetables. So getting all the different colors, about 30 different colors of vegetables during the week, in 1 week, can really help to ensure you're getting the nutrients that your body needs to thrive. And then self-care is a big one for me. And I don't necessarily mean getting your nails done and getting your toes done, although that can be very fun. I mean, what is the time that you spend by yourself, on yourself, really understanding what it is that your body is asking for? And you've heard me say that throughout our conversation here. What I mean by that is pay attention. Pay attention to your friend eating that really knows that it's bothering them, but they're eating it anyway. And it's not just with food. If you're eating something that's not agreeing with you, keep track of it. Try to understand what it is that is really making you feel that way. How are you feeling when you eat it, etc. But also, are you acting in a way that is falling in alignment with your values? Sometimes when we do things because somebody else wants us to, sometimes if we go out and maybe we're drinking and we don't really believe in drinking, but we're doing it because somebody else is and we're celebrating, but we really feel bad about that for ourselves. There could be any number of things that we are doing in our lives that are done to please other people and not ourselves. So we really need to balance of, okay, that's your issue, not mine. I can't take that on. And that's not a selfish thing. We need to do that in order to help ourselves really be healthy, is to set healthy boundaries and communicating those to our loved ones and those around us, and just really having our absolutes and non-negotiables for ourselves is really important. So definitely self-care. Stress management is a huge one. Learning how to have a positive mindset so that you can go forward and really deal with any worst case scenario in a positive light can be helpful. And then, of course, quality sleep. Quality sleep is probably closer to the top of the list because, like I said, your body regenerates itself during the night. We're not allowing that regenerative, restorative process to take place, then we really can experience some bad symptoms. Brain fog, being sluggish, all of those things really can come from a lack of good sleep.
Do you work exclusively with women?
Nope, I don't. I work with men as well. Women tend to understand that they need help before men do. So they are the ones that reach out more often, tend to want them, whereas men want the. So I don't give answers to people. I help people understand what's going on with them. They come knowing that they have to put the effort in, and then I support whatever changes they want to make for themselves. So men and women are very, very different in how they approach their health. So the majority of my clients are women, but I do have men as well, and I can help them understand their health as well. Men have hormones too. Understanding that men can have Hashimoto's, men can have thyroid disease. Sometimes we don't think of those things because it's not as prevalent, but men need help as well. And of course, men have gut. So they could use help with their gut health as well and their cognitive function. But I help everyone. I have teenage clients as well through going through puberty, whether you're going through puberty, you're having fertility issues, you're pregnant, you're going through any stage of menopause. I can help to understand any challenges that might be going during those periods of time.
Nice. So I have an interview this Friday with Andrew Hewitt from Caliber Wellness, and with him we're gonna talk about men's mental health.
Right.
What are the things that you see often, or like you would like to add, or even ask questions if you have any?
So what I would ask him, you're saying?
What are thoughts or questions you would like to offer on that topic?
So basically, how is it that we can allow men to understand that it's okay to ask for help? That, they also are experiencing the same things that women are experiencing in terms of their gut health and their overall health. It's not a bad thing to reach out. Going through something mentally, I think for people to admit that feeling some way mentally can pull them back from asking for help because they think that they're going to be looked down upon. But really, function and mental fitness is the pathway to be able to create sustainable behavior change that lead to our health. So I just would like to understand how to approach that topic with men to let them know that you're not any less of a man if you're asking for help.
There's some research showing, like especially in heterosexual relationships, that usually men who stay married have a higher like life expectations because wives tend to be like driving like, hey, let's go to the doctor, hey, keep up with your appointment and things like that. Do you agree? Do you feel like most of the men you see in your office tend to be because the wife kind of pulled them in?
One or two that the wife pulled in, but then one sticks out to me in particular that he came to me on his own because he felt like there was a lot of things going on with him and he couldn't pinpoint it. So, and it was really challenging because his focus was everywhere. It was challenging to get him to focus in on his food and to understand what his body was telling him. And there were some non-negotiable him that were not good for his health. So he had a very busy schedule and he couldn't devote the time he needed to quality sleep. So he was getting like maybe 3 hours of sleep and he slept on a chair. And just because he didn't want to take the time to go to bed. That was pretty challenging for me to try to get him to understand. But there again, in coaching, it's not my job to force someone to do something. I can support you through your effort, but it has to be your effort. So I only had one comment on his own without the wife saying, let's do this together.
That took me a little while to learn, and I think I sometimes still have to remind myself because sometimes you like take it on you when people don't progress towards the goals or whatever. But the truth is that when they come back to the office, they haven't tried absolutely anything of what you guys have discussed. So yes, talking about these things is important, but nothing's really going to change unless you break the pattern and do something else, anything else that's different.
That's right. And that's exactly right. And that's why the small shifts to work towards your goal are so important because you have to put that effort behind it. It drives me crazy when people just want to do these quick fixes and they think that, oh, great, I'm going to lose all this weight because I'm doing such and such, but they don't change the reason why they're seeking out this such and such. So by the time you're finished doing this thing, you're going to end up right back where you were. And it is exactly right. And a lot of times, unfortunately, for women, if we don't make those changes, and I'll just use losing weight as an example because that's the most famous one, right? The most prevalent one. So we go on these fixes to lose weight, and then we lose the weight, we stop the quick fix, we don't change our habits or our lifestyle, we go right back to where we were. And then sometimes it's worse. Sometimes your body reacts worse to coming off of the thing that you were on to help you lose weight, but yet you can't stay on that thing forever. So something has to change. You can't keep chasing these quick fixes that are ultimately going to lead you back to the reason why you started looking for this quick fix to begin with. So it's a challenge. And I know that it's difficult for people to make lifestyle changes, but then that's also why I've developed my own line of organic spice tea blend, because we're eating anyway. So inflammation is a huge thing for our health. So I've created a whole line of spices so that you can add them daily to your food. And the same way you go to the gym to build your muscles, the more you eat the spices or drink the teas, the more nutritious it's going to be for your health. So, for those of us who are having a difficult time changing our lifestyle, we can add this to make it just a little bit easier so that, small effort for a huge impact. I still recommend making the lifestyle changes, but for those of us who are having a little bit of difficulty, there are the things.
I remember that it doesn't have to be either the quick fix or the change. Like, you can do the same at the same time. When people go for meds, like to manage their mental health conditions, that is great, and that maybe can help you. There are people who can be in therapy forever, and until they get their meds, they're not gonna feel like real change. But you can take the meds and still, not solve absolutely anything. And you still need to develop the coping skills, the systems to help you learn like how to take care of yourself with whatever you are. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. And also it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I feel like I am that person. Like, go to night sleeping, I'm gonna change my life the next day because I'm gonna do all these things and I plan my whole day. And then I disappoint myself because nobody can you can build 20 habits at the same time in one day. What are the tips for sustainable change?
That's exactly right. And that's my message. Small steps can lead to sustainable change. And that's really where we should be headed. Once we know where we want to go, once we know what our goal is and where we see ourselves in our future as our healthiest self, then we can work on those small steps that can help us get to the point in our lives where we want to be. You can't do it all at once. There's no way. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. So you don't go to the gym expecting to have a big bodybuilder muscles in one day, not a week, not 2 weeks. And once you do achieve the muscles you want, you have to maintain. You have to continue to go. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. It's the same thing with your health. So, developing those habits and making them sustainable with a positive mindset and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I'm worth this. I'm not worth it because I eat this, and this. I'm not worth it because I am your wife or I am your girlfriend. I'm not worth it because make all this money. I'm worth it simply because I am. And that's it. The essence of your being is what makes you worth it. So I really wish that more people would look at themselves in the mirror and believe that, because we are worthy of that unconditional love for ourselves. And once we love ourselves, then we can really move forward with sustainable change for longevity.
If people were to say one thing, what would it be? What would you want it to be?
If I were to say that again to me, I didn't hear you.
If you wanted people to get one thing, one takeout, what would it be?
Know your body best. Know your body best. So this way, when you do move forward with challenges, you know the best way that you need to handle it. And it's going to take a little bit of work, but once you become the expert on yourself, then you truly can be the advocate for your health. And you can work in collaboration with your doctors, your psychiatrists, whoever it is that you need to go see. But being your own advocate because you know what your body needs is so empowering.
Any parting words?
Any parting words? Know what you're eating. Know how exercise affects you, understand the importance of quality sleep. And as a health coach, I can certainly help people to understand what it is that they need for health, whether they have gotten a diagnosis from their doctors and they don't know where to go from there. So many of us are overwhelmed with that, or just going through menopause and feeling off or sad or whatever. Understanding your gut health. To me, that's a big one. Go get checked. If you're not sure, ask your practitioner if they'll do a blood test for you so that you can really be aware of what it is that's going on with your body. So I'm a big advocate for know yourself.
Thank you for being with me today. It was nice meeting you. I know that to me, it's a little bit strange to jump in. I know a lot of people rather like talk a little bit before, but I love like unscripted conversations because like you get to just see what comes up, you know?
Listen, I loved every minute of it, and every podcast that I do is completely unscripted, and that's the best because I love your questions, and helping people is truly what my passion is. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. It was nice seeing you. So when you have a chance, just send me all your links so I can tag you if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Will do.
Thank you.
Bye.